right now on the National Weather Desk. Hurricane Erick strengthens into a powerful Category 4 hurricane. Mexico prepares for what could be a very damaging storm. The heat is on. Temperatures are soaring into the triple digits and will stick around for days. We can thank a heat dome.
Was really just another word for particularly strong and resilient area of high pressure.
And why heat is the deadliest type of weather.
And why does it lead to so many fatalities?
See how the National Weather Service determines if storm damage was caused by a tornado or straight line winds.
Snapped trunk is indication of a stronger, potential tornado.
And why many communities are striving to become Bee-City certified.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Well, good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen. Well, Hurricane Erick made landfall in Mexico earlier this morning as a dangerous Category 3 storm. Now, it's the third time in less than 2 years Mexico's Pacific coast was hit by a powerful hurricane. Now, Erick came ashore about 100 miles east of Acapulco, packing 125-mile-per-hour winds. Now, that is down from its peak strength of 140 miles per hour. Erick is expected to keep moving northwest throughout the day today, and it will quickly weaken as it encounters Mexico's mountains. The storm will likely dissipate later today or early tomorrow, but not before bringing up to 16 inches of rain to some areas. Well, Mexico took all precautions ahead of Erick's arrival. Authorities patrolled the streets overnight, making sure everyone was safe. Business owners boarded up their storefronts and people waited in long lines to fill up their cars. And the surf was already pretty bad yesterday, more than 24 hours before Erick's arrival. Well, more than 63 million people across the Mid-Atlantic face the threat of severe thunderstorms today. So that includes a level 3 out of 5 risk from the Storm Prediction Center for people in Philadelphia, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. Now, there's a slightly lower risk from areas north of New York and south of Richmond, but you'll still want to be weather aware, and severe wind gusts today are the primary concern. Well, summer officially starts tomorrow, and it's going to feel like it across much of the nation. A heat wave will bring record-setting high temperatures into next week, and it all starts today with triple-digit heat in the Rockies, including Denver and Salt Lake City, where the mercury will peak nearly 20 degrees above normal. The excessive heat moves into the plains tomorrow and then the east by the weekend. And by next week, Boston and New York will be 10 to 20 degrees above normal, and this is all thanks to a heat dome. Meteorologist Phil DeCastro explains how they form.
Heat dome is really just another word for particularly strong and resilient area of high pressure. Now, high pressure typically associated with sinking air and clear skies, and that's a bad combination. That sinking air is going to heat up as it gets lower in the atmosphere and it gets compressed. Skies end up staying clear. That leads to more solar heating. The sun just keeps baking the surface. And of course, you have light winds with high pressure, so it keeps that hot air from really going much of anywhere.
Well, the excessive heat also increases health risks. Meteorologist Violet Skybor explains why heat is so dangerous.
As we approach summer, heat is a concern, but why is it so dangerous and why does it lead to so many fatalities? Looking at the United States specifically, last year we had nearly 200 heat-related deaths, higher than any other weather-related fatalities, staying in first place for our 10-year average and 30-year average as well. So heat is known as the #1 weather killer, and it's been going up in recent years. Looking at our yearly heat-related deaths for the past 20 years, notice the trend going up. Our average yearly deaths for the last 20 years, 900, 1,100 average for the last 10 years. But in the past 5 years, it's gone up to 1,500. Even just looking at 1 year specifically, 2023, we had 2,300 deaths related to heat. And that's because of climate change, leading to more frequent hot weather days, but also more common is heat waves. A heat wave is defined as 3 days in a row of 90 degrees or higher, and heat deaths are 4% more common when we have a heat wave as opposed to just one hot day. Plus, the humidity makes a difference. The heat index, or the real field temperature, is defined as the temperature versus the relative humidity. So when we have high humidity, it feels hotter than the actual temperature. For instance, when we have a high of 90 and the relative humidity is 70, it can feel like 105. So when the heat index is high, that's when we start to see some health threats. In the caution category, when we're at 80 to 90 degrees, fatigue is possible. Extreme caution when we're in 91 to 103, muscle cramps and heat exhaustion are possible. Danger zone 104 to 125, but extreme danger for 126 or higher when heat stroke is likely. Plus, it also affects pets and plants, so keep that in mind.
Well, storms damaged homes and buildings in the Tulsa, Oklahoma region Tuesday night. The strong winds ripped the siding off a local mall, exposing insulation, wood, and wires. Elsewhere in the region, people cleaned up fallen trees from their yards. Lauren Henry has details.
Green Country residents clean up after recorded wind speeds between 60 and 72 miles per hour took their toll on trees, homes, and businesses across the metro. Many are bringing out the chainsaws to handle the removal process themselves.
It's going to be quite a job, but I think we can handle it. We got 2 chainsaws and we'll get it cleaned up.
Although some are doing it on their own, those with more severe damage may need to seek professional help.
This is a pretty good sized tree, but some people have trees that are 4 or 5 foot in diameter, and they've got to call somebody in to handle that for them.
Seth Harcrow, the owner of Boom & Green's Lawn Care, says he's already received multiple calls for limb removal and wants to remind those who are doing it themselves that it can be dangerous.
There's a lot of hazards with trees. You got fences, power lines, gas meters and everything that the trees could fall on.
And he shared how trimming your trees can mitigate future damage and help you avoid an expensive cleanup.
It gets pretty costly, and the best way to prevent those high charges is to maintain and keep the tree trimmed and pruned throughout the year.
Well, an interstate highway along the Tennessee-North Carolina border remains closed this morning after a rock slide covered the road with mud and water. Now, as you can see, several cars were stranded in the aftermath. Transportation officials say I-40 will remain shut down until investigators can determine what caused the slide. Well, the National Weather Service now confirms a tornado struck just outside of Colorado Springs late Tuesday. Mackenzie Stafford was with an official from the National Weather Service as he looked for signs that the damage was either caused by a tornado or straight line winds.
Snapped tree? Yeah. Okay. This is a damage indicator. So the damage indicator being that the tree snapped. Snapped trunk is indication of a stronger, I guess, potential tornado.
It's these signs Clint Scully with the National Weather Service is documenting.
Take a photo, it'll take in the latitude and longitude, and then we can start piecing together the track of the potential tornado.
They're looking for crisscross trees at homes like the Kimlers.
We had tornado warnings, but never anything like this. This tree behind me would have hit my car, because exactly where my car is parked right now. It would have done a lot of damage.
So as the NWS surveys the trees, families are starting to pick up what the wind left behind.
Well, today, the nation pauses to honor the newest federal holiday, Juneteenth, which commemorates the emancipation of enslaved people in the United States. With celebrations taking place across the country, we wanted to check the weather in select cities. So let's start in Galveston, Texas, where slaves learned on June 19th, 1865, they were freed. Now, weather for today's festivities will be typical for South Texas. Highs will be in the upper 80s with that sultry humidity. Milwaukee is home to one of the longest running Juneteenth celebrations in the country, and the weather for today's parade and festival should be pretty good. We'll have partly cloudy skies and highs there in the upper 70s. Now, Philadelphia's annual Juneteenth Parade and Festival has drawn more than 25,000 people a year since its inception in 2016. And it will be hot today with highs around 90 degrees and a chance for afternoon storms. And finally, there are multiple events around Washington, D.C. today, including an opportunity to see President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. We're also looking at a hot day here in D.C. with a high around 90, along with that risk of severe storms later this afternoon. Well, coming up here on the National Weather Desk, we'll show you how one city is using wildflowers to help improve water quality in local waterways. And we'll tell you about the invasive species that's decimating corn crops in the Midwest.
I'm meteorologist Charlie Lopresti with a look at the Northeast. We're tracking the potential for strong to severe thunderstorms in the Northeast this afternoon and evening. Areas in yellow, we have a risk for scattered severe thunderstorms, damaging wind, hail, and also isolated tornado are all possibilities in the setup. Any early morning fog should burn off. During your Thursday today, look for developing sun. It turns hot, it turns humid. Best chance for thunderstorms will be during the afternoon and evening. We have lower humidity that will arrive on Friday.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Gerard Jabali. Here's a look at the Mid-Atlantic region, tracking more active weather for your Thursday afternoon. Showers and thunderstorms likely, some of which could be strong to severe ahead of this cold front. That activity will likely clear as we move through the late evening and overnight hours. Behind the front, it will cool down and not be so humid, but temperatures will soar into the 90s before that front arrives, along with the rainfall. Temperatures will have a chance to, again, cool down as we get into Friday, as we dry out, and we'll be looking at temperatures in the 70s to 80s on Friday.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Collins with a look at your southeast forecast. Showers and thunderstorms will impact a portion of northern Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia through the start of Thursday morning. Then sea breeze-driven showers and thunderstorms across north central Florida and parts of southwest Florida as well, and the Gulf Coast and the Carolinas heading through Thursday evening. Hot and humid temperatures in the upper 80s along the northern Gulf Coast and in the low 90s for most of central and south Florida.
The National Weather Desk.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, large parts of the country are dealing with sweltering heat. Now, in an effort to stay cool, many people will look to hit the local beaches. Marlo Lundak spoke with health experts to find out how kids and adults can stay safe in the water.
Parents supervising their children. I think that's the most important issue to talk about today. And
Dr. Paul Slenton is a family physician at Wapaka Theta Care. As time at the pool or lake ramps up, he has an important and startling reminder.
Unfortunately, the most common cause of death for children between the ages of 1 and 4 is death by drowning.
Physicians like Sletton say the best way to avoid such a tragedy is for parents to be in the water alongside their young ones.
So many distractions these days, and these water injuries can happen, drowning can happen so quickly, and it's silent. So we think that jettisoning the cell phone for 15 minutes and being in the water and watching your children is probably the best way to go.
He also says to opt for a life jacket rather than wearing water wings, as they're not proven safe and effective. And with the steamy weather ahead, those spending time outdoors should be mindful of potential heat exhaustion.
I think if your child is looking really flushed, really tired and excessively tired, I think that's one of the things to think about. Getting them in the shade, getting them something cool to drink.
And it's not just kids who need to be looked after. Be sure you're checking in on elderly loved ones and monitor your own health too.
Well, outside Columbus, Ohio, there is a company working to find innovative and sustainable ways to manage stormwater. Meteorologist Sarah Converse spoke with officials from the company to learn more about what they're doing.
ADS, or Advanced Drainage Systems, is a Hilliard-based company that manufactures products for stormwater management. 500 million pounds of plastics are diverted from the landfill to create the pipes and chambers that collect and treat stormwater. Executive Vice President of Marketing and Product Management, Brian King, says it is their mission to manage water in a sustainable way.
Our products go into the ground for 50 to 100 years, and so they have to be resilient to different types of weather conditions, changing weather patterns, what may or may not move, like the earth moves in certain parts of the country, and so making sure that our products are designed to meet that requirement.
Inside the building, their products are being put to the test so that water is protected for future generations.
Thinking of stormwater as an asset and a resource as opposed to a nuisance is what we're trying to drive and what we're trying to change, because if you can manage stormwater effectively, you could potentially reuse that stormwater and you could lessen the burden on municipal water.
If not done effectively, unmanaged stormwater can have lasting repercussions.
When stormwater is not managed properly, is you get flooding. And so we make sure that we're designing and developing systems that help reduce that risk of flooding.
Flooding that could lead to polluted runoff, which in our area has been known to lead to algal blooms in Ohio.
Well, in several cities, water quality can be an issue. In Tulsa, officials are using a unique tool to help clean local waterways. Wildflowers. Tanya Motorzinski has more.
Is working to improve the water quality with flowers planted by the stormwater operations throughout the city.
The program is to filter and improve the water quality runoff before it gets into the waterway there. So a little bit of a buffer of vegetation before the water gets to that creek will help uptake pollutants and nutrients and chemicals that would otherwise get into the water and impact the water quality.
Jacob Hagan with the city's stormwater operations says in February, the city started testing out the wildflowers by planting about 30 species in 4 stormwater locations. The wildflowers act as a filter system by filtering any impurities before the rainwater hits the creeks and makes its way downstream.
That stretch of the Arkansas is one of the ones in Tulsa that's impaired for bacteria.
He says the wildflower's roots allow water to soak into the ground easier.
Just naturally, the plants uptake excess nutrients from the runoff. If people are fertilizing their lawns or pet waste or livestock waste, those kinds of things get uptaken by the plants and utilized.
And speaking of flowers, an effort is underway in several cities to become what's known as Bee City USA certified. It's a movement to help protect and increase pollinators across the country. Sarah Weitzman tells us more about the project and why many people say it's the bees' needs.
They may be tiny, but their impact is massive.
Without the bees, we definitely would not have food.
Horticulturist Jessica Smith says bees are vital for growing your food and plants because they transfer pollen, which fertilizes them. Smith says these pollinator gardens are a natural way to do that without chemicals.
By having these pollinator gardens, that we're inviting those beneficial insects in to help, so we don't have to use as many pesticides.
Currently, the city has 7 of these gardens, and Smith says with a Bee USA certification, the city will give them the tools to plant more. On top of that, the distinction will help create some buzz about the cause.
They go out and incorporate the public to be involved. And that is the #1 thing that helps us.
Local beekeeper Mike Rogers tells me community support makes all the difference. He encourages anyone in the area to come help with these pollinator gardens by planting bee-friendly flowers like lavender, black-eyed Susans, and yarrows. And if you're nervous about their sting...
So for people who want to help out with the community pollinator gardens, is this something you would recommend if they're a little nervous?
I recommend having one available, yes, absolutely. I've got neighbors that have actually utilized mine when they go out and cut grass.
Well, now to Nebraska and a different kind of insect. Farmers and researchers are reporting a resurgence of wheat stem maggots. It's a pest known to damage corn crops. The invasive species was first reported in the state 8 years ago, and its return could be bad news for local corn growers. Emma Leake has more.
UNL entomologist Justin McMecken said dozens of farmers who had to deal with the pest in the past are starting to call in again after seeing the larva again.
And most of them, if not all, called in the past week or two, indicating they were seeing similar issues or worse than 2017, and we're concerned.
According to McMicken, the wheat stem maggots start their life cycle in cover crops like wheat and rye and transfer to corn planted in fields transitioning out of the cover crops. He says that while pests moving from crop to crop are not unusual, the pests are hard to spot and can catch farmers off guard unless they split the plants open.
They leave the cover crop seeking some other host, and it just happens there's a whole bunch of corn around in a cornfield. That's where all the chaos comes in for farmers, is they find these plants with dead, inner leaves or a whorl. The plant's sometimes not growing anymore.
For anyone with infected fields and plants that aren't tillering, McMecken says replanting this late in the season is a tough decision for many, but one that some producers have chosen with the knowledge that the maggots won't likely spread again.
I've had a conversation with a few people at that 50 to 60% infestation, and they're true 50 to 60% infestations. They have replanted. In fact, they were not even interested in the conversation about a replant at that much damage in the field. I don't think they would have slept well the year watching that field try and struggle its way through.
McMecken says that as disturbing as the maggot can be, the benefits of cover crops in terms of soil quality, weed control, and erosion control should not be enough to discourage farmers from planting grains in the future, and that they're using the opportunity to conduct as much research on the pest as possible.
Well, time now for a short break, but first we take to the skies over Oklahoma.
Well, good Thursday morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Andrew Buck-Michael. The rain finally moving its way out of the Ohio Valley later today, and look at all the sunshine we got. Temperatures are starting to heat up as we head into the afternoon today, especially across the plains. A little bit of thunderstorm activity trying to fire up out to the middle of the plains. But we still are kicking the rain out of here for the day today. Tomorrow, look at these temperatures getting into the triple digits in some spots. Same for your Saturday.
Good morning, I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. Here's a look at your regional weather. Nice and cool this morning for our friends at Amarillo, coming in at 66 degrees. Everybody else sitting pretty warm and pretty humid. We'll be watching a very weak system as it slides back up to the north. Scattered showers, tropical rain will move in along South Texas and into Louisiana. Otherwise, it looks like another hot and very humid day. I'm meteorologist Alex Garcia. That's a look at your regional weather.
Well, hi there and a good Thursday morning to everybody. I'm meteorologist Shannon O'Donnell. Juneteenth out west, and we're still looking at a lot of extreme heat in the deserts of southern Arizona. 116 in the Valley of the Sun around Phoenix and Chandler today. 92 in the Treasure Valley and Boise, and 68 out of the Emerald City. High pressure still in charge over most of the West Coast, but it will get wet as we head into summer in Seattle and Portland this weekend. And that's the scene from here.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
A stormy Wednesday evening across multiple states, from Tennessee to Illinois and more. Here's a view of a tornado-warned storm packed with lightning in Middle Tennessee and cool but ominous-looking clouds in Ohio. A hovering drone caught a lightning strike on camera, and this strike zapped a tree in Tuskegee, Alabama on Tuesday.
For more content like this, subscribe to the National Weather Desk's YouTube channel.
Well, temperatures are heating up, and it doesn't have to be extra hot outside for your car to turn dangerous. Katie Benty explains.
It can take as long as that individual's body temperature. The inside, their core temperature reaches about 104 degrees. It can become life-threatening.
Fire Rescue says temperatures inside a parked car can jump 20 degrees in just 10 minutes. And the heat doesn't need to be triple digits to be deadly.
Whether it's 70 degrees, 90 degrees, or 100 degrees, on a sunny day or even in the shade, the heat builds up fast, especially in a vehicle when there's no air conditioning and the windows are up.
According to Kids and Car Safety, more than 40 children died in hot cars nationwide last year.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Eileen Whalen. Make it a great day, and I will see you back here tomorrow.